Hi, my name is Christy. Welcome back to my channel where normally I take old things and turn them into new things. However, this is a special occasion video because it is my mom's birthday weekend. So before I begin, please do me a favor and help me celebrate her birthday by just dropping a happy birthday carol comment below. It will truly make her day, and she is deserving of the best day ever. She is so sweet, kind, caring, always there for you with the biggest smile on her face. She's positive all the time, God-fearing woman, and she's really cute. I know some of you know her, and she's just downright adorable. She's also been wearing the same apron since I was probably about 5, and it's from a hardware store. She deserves so much better. So I've made her a reversible apron. It turned out really cute, almost as cute as she is. So this one's for you. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you so much. Thank you for everything you've done for me. I'm so excited. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop that comment below. Thank you so much for being here. I bought a yard and a half of this super cute daisy print and a corresponding polka dotted print, as well as a yard and a half of iron-on interfacing for the apron. I measured 10 inches across the top, 20 inches across the waist, and 30 inches long for my fun-sized mom. I actually did some measurements this time. Look at me, I'm growing. I folded my pattern in half as well as the fabric and lined it up on the fold with a couple of pins so I can easily cut it out. There is no special reason for the blue tissue paper, I just ran out of the pink. With one side cut out, I need to do the exact same thing to the other fabric since it will be a reversible apron. You'll see throughout this video that what I cut from one piece of fabric, I'll also need to cut from the other fabric. To attach the interfacing, line up the textured side to the wrong side of the fabric. A pillowcase helps protect your iron while holding it in place for a few seconds until it adheres. Double check and redo anywhere that didn't stick. It's fairly thin cotton, so this interfacing should give it some structure. I forgot to round off the skirt corners on my tissue paper pattern, so I'm making a slight curve and then using that piece I cut off as a template for the other piece of fabric. I want to add 2 fully lined pockets on each side with a corresponding ruffle on top because I'm fancy. Or an opposing fabric ruffle. I'm not sure which way I was going to go at this point. Anyways, the pockets are 6 inches wide, so the ruffle needs to be 1.5 times that length. In the end, I cut out 8 pockets total, 4 from each fabric, and 4 ruffle pieces from each fabric. Since my mom loads up her pockets with anything and everything, I added some interfacing to make them stronger. Still trying to figure out which I like better, a matching ruffle or an opposite fabric ruffle. Either way works, but the most important part is that it fits my mom's phone. Starting with the ruffles, face them right sides together and sew along 3 sides, making sure to backstitch at the beginning and the end. The corners can be a little tricky. Manually lower the needle into the fabric so you can lift the presser foot and pivot the fabric. I'm using just a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Clip the corners before turning the ruffle right side out so that you can poke the corners out nicer. Iron flat and then stitch a basting stitch along the open end. A basting stitch just requires you to adjust your sewing machine to the longest stitch possible and then don't backstitch at the beginning or the end. Separate the 2 threads and show your favoritism by picking your favorite thread. Start pulling on that one thread to slowly pucker the fabric and create the ruffle. I still haven't figured out which ruffle pattern I'm going with. Anyway, separate the 2 layers, line up and flip the ruffle with right sides together so that the ruffle faces down. To make sure the ruffle doesn't get caught, move it at least a 1/4 inch away from the edge and pin the corners in. I'm doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the pocket and a 1/2 inch seam allowance along the top to cover the gathering stitch. Flip the lining side to the pocket's right sides together and pin all the way around. Please ignore the fact that I'm pinning it to the apron. The pockets will be sewn separately first. Leave a small 2 inch gap at the bottom so we can turn the pocket right side out. Even though I took my time to carefully double check that the ruffle was out of the way, I still ended up sewing it together. You'll see. was all excited to turn my first pocket right side out, and that's when I found out that the ruffle was stuck. It's just not one of my projects unless I have to whip out my seam ripper. I should name it. Anyways, it's an easy fix. Just seam rip the portion that was stuck and re-sew, triple checking that the ruffle is out of the way. While it's inside out, I also trimmed the top and clipped some notches around the curves. This time it worked, and I got lots of practice since I had 3 more pockets to sew. To close up that gap we left in the bottom, measure and pin the pockets where you'd like them, and we're going to do a top stitch all the way around. Well, not all the way. 3 sides, otherwise it wouldn't be a pocket. Backstitch at the tops of the pockets a few times, just because that tends to be a bit of a stress point. You can't see my backstitching because my giant hand covers it. We got a pocket! Yeah, thumbs up. And then do everything all over again for the other side of the apron. Moving on to the straps, I cut out 2 80 by 4 inch skirt ruffle pieces, 4 40 by 4 waist straps, and 2 23 by 4 neck straps. Starting with the neck straps, fold each piece right sides together and sew down one side. And then I use the world's smallest safety pin to pin it to one end and then invert it through so I can shimmy it out the other side to turn it right side out. Do this to both sides and then iron flat. Once they've been ironed, face them wrong sides together, add a few pins to make it easier to sew, and then sew down each side, leaving the ends open. Pretty much the same process for the waist straps with one small change. On one end, fold down about 1/4 of an inch, then face them right sides together to sew along 2 sides. I'm giving my tiny safety pin a break and using my loop turner to invert the 2 waist straps. Poke out the corners as best you can, and then just like we did for the neck strap, face them wrong sides together, add a few pins, and then we're going to sew down 3 sides, leaving the 4th side open because it'll be hidden within the seam. The giant skirt ruffle. Same way, face them right sides together. I tapered in both ends just to make it a little more stylized. Pin and then sew the entire thing. And you know, I don't remember doing this, but apparently I added interfacing. Add a few notches along the curves so that when you invert the ruffle and iron it, it will lay flat. Just like we did for the pocket ruffle, adjust your sewing machine to the longest stitch length possible and sew 1 long basting stitch. And remember not to backstitch at the beginning or end, but leave long tails so that you can once again gather. This took a long time. Once you have the skirt ruffle mostly gathered, work on the straps. Flip them so that the strap is towards the inside and then measure at least a 1/2 inch down from the top. This way it won't get caught in the seam allowance. Once you're happy with that, pin in place and then move to the other side and do the exact same thing. Starting just below where the straps end, zhuzh out the ruffle so that it has even gathers. Flip to the inside and then pin in place. Take your time with this. I used a ridiculous amount of pins. Same thing with the neck strap. Flip so that it is on the inside, and I pinned at least 1 inch away from the ends. Since this is reversible, double check that you're pinning the right sides of the opposing fabric together where you want it. Flip over the other side of the apron, facing them right sides together. Basically, we are making a giant apron sandwich. Using the pins from the bottom layer, line up all corners and repin to join the top layer into the sandwich. Here is our puffy, pinned sandwich with all the straps on the inside. And don't forget to leave a gap so that you can turn it right side out. I'm starting to sew at one of the gaps that I have marked with a double pin. Hopefully you left the gap so that you can turn it right side out. This turned out really cool. Pull out all of the ruffles and the straps and poke the corners out the best you can. I'm so happy! We still have one more step though. It's just to do a top stitch all the way around so that we can close up that gap that we left, just like we did to the pockets. Be very careful once you get to that gap to make sure that you are closing it correctly. This took me 2 tries, but I got it. And here it is, the final reversible apron. Here is the apron. 2 amazing pockets. It is reversible, so this is one side. My mom's always using her credit cards. They'll be in here. She can cook with whatever she wants. All fits in here. I think she has a remote control in her purse, so that also fits in here. Her cell phone, also in there.